Greetings from beyond the screen. Earlier this month, Dr. Carlson recorded a podcast episode with Chris Williamson to discuss the moment our leaders started pretending that gender roles aren't deeply embedded in nature, the West fell apart. Talk about a provocative yet long-winded title. I need to paint a portrait of Williamson, a 37-year-old that began his career as a club promoter and model. He's also appeared on the covers of women's romance novels, and you know the kind of content in those. Before appearing on Love Island. Following this, he launched his podcast called Modern Wisdom and saw major success in business. But in terms of love and legacy, Williamson is laughably single and childless. On the discussion, skipping to Chris's advice to young men looking for direction, Williamson mentions that whenever we give advice to young men, there must be a social land acknowledgement before anything can happen, as there is an expectation to say it's important to remember that 1 in 5 homeless people are women. Yet, despite the knowledge of this phenomenon, he still plays into it. Late in October, Williamson sat down with Bernie Sanders for 8 minutes. They discussed why young men are leaving the left. Sanders at one point, predictably, said it was a man's world that's changed. And the fact that we fought and achieved more equality for women is a positive thing. Why would you fight for more equality if there's already? Unless you actually mean privilege. And Williamson, like a trained dog, goes, I agree. You cannot give actionable, worthwhile advice while putting on a performative peacock dance to be more digestible to the enemy. Though I do describe Williamson as a more consumable Andrew Tate. Both men would put theatre actors to shame. With no advice given, the dynamic duo sets their new destination for the real wage gap between men and women. Williamson acknowledges that women outcompete men in education, employment, and welfare, which leads to men of all ages asking this question, what's my place? What's my role? He then goes on to list the consequences of the natural order being reversed, as men in relationships with women who earn more than them are twice as likely to use erectile dysfunction medication, lose their job, suffer divorce, etc. Tucker continues this thread by discussing how the experiment started in the 1960s, with the claim that men and women are the same. Gender differences are social construct, and finishes by asking, why wouldn't we build a society that allows men and women to drive? Unsurprisingly, Williamson doesn't answer the question and asks his own, what would that look like? The answer he's given can be summarized as such, a world without feminism. And Williamson's response is revealing.
Yeah. It's an interesting one, right? Because it's very hard to try and put forward something that doesn't sound like putting the brakes on women. And I don't think that that's what either of us...
Are women happier than they were? We know that. We know the answer because there's been a longitudinal study underway since the early 70s that asks American women a lot of questions, but one of them is, are you happier? And female happiness has declined for over 50 years.
I would imagine men's has too.
That's probably right. In a lot of ways, the women's movement was good for men because it allowed, justified promiscuity, which is like a high male priority just in general because it's nature. You want to impregnate as many females as you can. But it didn't make women happier. And it's very obvious, just as someone who occasionally goes to restaurants and airports, and 100% of the people who scream at me are, college-educated women. It's like, why are they so angry? Well, they're so angry because they believe the lie, which is that nature doesn't matter. So I don't know that this is liberty. Does anyone really think that women are liberated, or are they enslaved to their employers? That's what it looks like to me.
Certainly tethered in some ways. Yeah, I think some of the worst parts of modern feminism taught women that true liberation was having sex like their brother and working like their father.
Exactly.
That being said, I don't want to put the brakes on the opportunity for some woman who really wants to go to college or university and learn and then earn off the back of that. I don't think that that's a good idea. Like, it's not the solution to say, okay, women get out of the boardroom and back into the kitchen as if that's what needs to happen. But when you just accept the fact that if you don't feel secure and safe to be able to look after yourself and to be able to create a family, then you supplement building family for building career. And that means that, well, you've just supplanted being a family builder for being a worker drone.
Well, that's exactly right. And I think we're a long way from forcing women back into the kitchen. American women don't know how to cook, so that would be a pretty abrupt change anyway. But I think it would be enough to kind of level the playing field and stop telling girls the greatest lie of all, which is that you have a moral duty to work at a bank and you'll be happier when you do. That's a lie. And sort of our school should take an agnostic position on this stuff and not like encourage girls to do something for which they are not suited and that will not bring them happiness. It won't.
Look, I think that certainly in the past, it seems like women and girls who wanted to go into a career, learn and continue to do the professional development thing did not feel like they were able to do that. That being said, there is a difference between enabling women to be able to go and chase a career in their education and derogating the role of motherhood, right? There is a big difference between
that's it right there.
Yet it gets better as Williamson admits that he did not research why women needed feminism and believes they were net gains.
In many ways, because female freedom was something that women wanted for so long. And I think it is a strong point to make.
Did they? Where's the evidence that they wanted that for so long?
Because
I don't think there's any.
I think, to push back on that, I think that there is certainly an argument to be made that the lower divorce rate and the high-level stats of look at how many marriages stay together were that women could not leave. They were financial prisoners inside of these marriages. Mm-hmm. And if they had a husband that was mistreating them, that was beating them, that was not caring for the children in the way that they should have done, where did the women go? They don't have
now it's just a boyfriend who's doing that. Right. But I'm asking, where's the evidence? I don't believe it for a second. I was taught that my whole life, that pre-liberation, pre-Betty Friedan and Gloria Steinem, it was The Handmaid's Tale. It was just a hellscape of forced pregnancies and servitude to the patriarchy, and some guy in a wife beater beating his wife was just, but there's no evidence of that at all. Like, we have public opinion polling on this. Have you ever seen any that showed, like, I don't know, even a large percentage of American women pre-1965 are like desperately unhappy?
I've never looked at that.
Yeah, I have. It doesn't exist. That's all bullshit.
Interesting.
It's all propaganda. They're like a small subset of unhappy women. There's always a small subset of unhappy people, restless people who like decided to subvert the oldest institution in humanity, which is marriage. And they did, and it made everybody crazy and much more unhappy.
I certainly don't think the derogation of family structure was great for women. Like, it's not, we can obviously say that it's not been great for men, but you can see the beneficiaries of the last 50 years. It's like no group has fallen further faster than men over the last 50 years. No group.
Yeah.
But a lot of the objective gains have been made. But look at how many more women are educated. Look at how many more women are employed. You know, on the surface, that looks and sounds fantastic. And in many ways it is. And that's not something that I'm trying to row back, or I'm guessing that you're trying to row back either. You're trying to say is, can we have our cake and eat it too with regards to this?
What I'm saying is these are really bad values. Like education for its own sake, financial achievement for its own sake. These are bad goals. These are not things that we should want. These are lies. That doesn't make you happy. There's no meaning in that. You get your fucking degrees. Who cares? It's all stupid.
Now, here's the answer that Willy Boy cannot give. A world where men and women both thrive is a world where both have a place in civilization that's complementary. A return to the natural order, which means that men and women will have to give up their freedoms and take on duties. But in return for this, they will have benefits. Though to have women give up anything and serve others besides themselves is a high, mighty ask that they certainly won't do. And that's why they don't need to have their rights. Take them away, they are undeserving of it. It is entirely obvious that Williamson is a feminist at heart. As he admits himself, he was raised by a single mother. He cannot separate his personal experiences from the consequences of feminism, because to do so would mean he needs to ask uncomfortable questions. Thus, his reluctance becomes even more understandable when he discusses how women navigate social hierarchies, as they want to ascend often leads to them behaving in ways detrimental to themselves and others. Just see how giving women the right to vote ruined the world from Africa to Japan.
Well, I think one of the problems that you have when talking about the problems of boys and men is this sort of perspective that empathy is zero sum. That by giving empathy to men, you are taking it away from some other group, which is more deserving. And it's a shame because it suggests that we can't do two things at once, that any attempt to raise men up is implicitly also bringing women down. And I don't think that this is what me or you are.
You really think that?
I think that that's how it's perceived, at least. Like this sense that after all, haven't men had it good for long enough? Like maybe they should just sort of suck it up and deal with it.
So what do you hear in that statement that you just made? What's the undertone there? What's the motive? Hate. That's an angry statement. You're angry at someone when you say that. You're not trying to elevate anybody. You're trying to destroy someone else. I mean, you just said it. And that statement is very familiar to anyone who's lived in the West for the past 40 years. Well, I can't, white man. And it's like you're saying that because you hate those people. And the results are exactly what you would expect. If an entire society turns against a group, decides that they're despised and for good reason, and then, lays out this program for decades, limiting their opportunities, demoralizing them, barking at them, forcing them to deny their inherent nature. Like they end up suicidal. Like it's not that complicated, is it? And I don't think it has anything with empathy. It's hate. It's hate posing as empathy.
Yeah, I think if you've been on the side of the beneficiary for a long time, typically, I mean, apart from the fact that you died more in war and of...
Yeah, the beneficiary says who?
Yeah, but if you've appeared...
You get to wake up early every morning and then die young? Yeah, okay.
Look, I think a common question is, why don't men just do better, right? Sort of chop. Can't you fix your health and your education and your employment by pulling yourself up by your bootstraps? Like, stop being so useless. The problem is no other group is told when they suffer with poor performance or accolades in the real world that they should just pull themselves up by their bootstraps. Like we spend billions in taxpayer-funded money to start up foundations and charities and committees and departments and campaigns to work out what's going on. Like basically, if any group has a problem, typically we say, what can we do to fix the world to help you along? But if men have a problem, we say, what is it that men are doing where they don't fix themselves? And in some ways, this is sort of inspiring and agentic because it says you can sort this out. But when it's not being delivered with the structural support that's needed to try and counterbalance a lot of the changes, education, employment, socioeconomic status, etc., displacement, what it results in is struggling guys being not given a leg up and then being sort of having the finger pointed at them. So it's a blatant double standard.
Well, not just not giving a leg up. I mean, when you systematically deny people education and job opportunities on the basis of their sex and race, you're trying to kill them. Like, what else would that be? You're trying to keep people from getting into school and get jobs because of the way they were born? I mean, how is that different from these systems that we claim we hate? It's not. It's the same system. And I don't think it's not giving them a leg up. I don't know that anyone needs a leg up necessarily. I just like, how about a fair playing field where you stop like hurting people for things they can't control?
Well, I think men...
I mean, maybe the UK is different. I'm just saying in the United States, for 40 years, we've had a system in law that says if you're a white man, you get fewer opportunities, period. And it exists. And no one's done anything about it, by the way, despite lots of, we're going to fix it. No one's even tried to dismantle it. So like, what is that?
Well, I think a lot of men feel like their difficulties are dismissed out of hand as whining from a patriarchy that they no longer feel a part of. It feels like men are in the modern world being made to pay for the supposed advantages of their father and their grandfathers.
Right.
And it causes guys to check out. I mean,
40 minutes into an almost 2-hour video, and we finally start focusing on men. However, in the usual way of blaming video games, porn, and more, Williamson argues that men are being sedated out of their status seeking and reproductive behaviors through video games, screens, and porn. That does sound a bit redundant. All three of those involve screens. He could have just said screens, but we're talking about a man that has modern wisdom. Perhaps I'm not wise enough to know why he took that approach. Further adding that it isn't enough to keep men happy, however, it's enough to keep them from going nuclear. The issue with this hypothesis is every outlet for men has either seen capture or degradation, even video games and porn. For example, we could point to the lowered quality in artistic direction, aesthetics, and gameplay in video games, or, according to Michael Knowles, employees of ILO, the parent company of Pornhub, admitting to steering gay and transgender content to reportedly straight users. Even I, as a gay man, can admit, with an anecdote or two, that the trannies even show up in my man-on-man action scenes. It's quite disturbing when you see a person instead of a peen. If history is indeed cyclical, then young men should have led a renaissance of revolutions. The particular problem here is a simple one, born from a lack of hope and support. Many men believe either that the suffering and sacrifice needed for this will not bear fruit, or they know it's possible to pave a new path, but there is no one with resources willing to support them. Let's travel back to 2020, when the news story of the Hunter Biden laptop hit the internet. The man behind this diabolical discovery received no assistance nor help from any opposed to Biden, whether they be plaincoat, plebeians, or polished paraticians. And if you want to know what he needed help with, he was being attacked by the left. He lost his business. But where were the right? Nowhere to be found as per usual. Why would men risk their life and limb when no one but themselves is willing to lay down on the line? Though the conversation worsens. When Williamson mentions that men play video games for a sense of progress, and Carlson responds with,
How sad. Because you're not making any progress. It's all fake.
I would ask either one if they do more than wax philosophically about men's issues. However, I know what the answer would be, and it would be no. Neither Carlson nor Williamson lead any tangible effort to assist young men towards paving their path to progress and legacy, despite knowing how the world works against them, though Williamson will always ride the fairy fence.
But men hold more CEO positions, but women are graduating college at higher rates, but there's more male homelessness, but there's more women in sex work. It's like both sides are trying to balance some bizarre simultaneous social justice equation. Like how many false allegations are worth a sexual assault? How many female graduates are worth a male CEO? The entire conversation is basically saying my privilege is more oppressed than your privilege.